All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Bible and Pose. Today we are going to be going through Matthew 18. I'm going to break this up in two different videos. So maybe three actually, because there's 35 verses in chapter 18. And today we're just going to go 1 through 10. We're just going to get through 1 through 10 today and break it down. Matthew 18, 1 through 10. And we're going to name this A Measure of True Greatness. That is what we're going to be talking about today. So before I get into Matthew 18, this is such a good text. This is an important text. We need to understand Matthew 18. If we understand anything in the New Testament, it's Matthew 18 that is teaching us how to love in a community, how to love before God sends us out, before he sent them out to do the one thing that he asked for, Matthew 28:19, go and make disciples and fill the kingdom. He said we must understand Matthew 18, and that is how to love one another, how to love in a community. And we have to just get Matthew 18 right. So Matthew 18:1 is, at the time the disciples came to Jesus saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And we're just going to pause right there. If you understand Matthew 17 he is telling the disciples of his departure. He's saying this is what's going to happen, and he is getting them ready for the departure of Jesus, the execution of Jesus, the thing that we just learned about last Sunday. If you're listening to this in real time, we just learned about it. So he's getting them ready. He's preparing them to go and build the kingdom in Matthew 18. And they're worried about who is the greatest in the kingdom. And they're wondering, is Peter the favorite? Is it John? Is it James? Like they want to know who's the greatest in all the kingdom. There's 12 disciples. Who is the greatest in the kingdom? And that's what they're so worried about. But like in our own lives, like how can we reflect that in our own lives? Is it status? We all want status. We all want a platform. We all want podcasts. We all want likes. If that doesn't get a like, I'm going to take it down. If that video doesn't get anything, I'm going to take it down. I'm going to shift the angle of something so I can get likes and feel that there's love and attention, all eyes on me. That is what we're getting at right here. They want status. They're trying to be like, oh, who's the greatest in the kingdom? They're asking God, who is the greatest? Who do you think is the greatest? Because remember, God is going to be removed from the equation. They don't know he's going to death, hell, and the grave. They don't know that. They don't know he's coming back in 3 days. So they want to know who's the greatest, who's going to run the world right now, who's the greatest in the kingdom. And that's what they're asking. And it's not the first time they asked this, because if we turn to Mark 33:34, it says they came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, what were you arguing about on the road? So as they're going to Capernaum, the disciples are arguing, and Jesus asked them, what are you guys arguing about on the way here? When they got there, 34 says, but they kept quiet on the way. They had argued about who was the greatest. So clearly here in the text, Matthew 18:1, this is not the first time that this has happened. They argue about who's the greatest. And if you listen to people, they will tell you what's on their heart. We're so addicted to approval. We're so addicted to likes. And we just need to listen with our ears. What are people saying? Because the thing is that people will tell you how to treat them. People will tell on themselves, basically. You just gotta listen. We have to listen to understand. And so that is what we are talking about today, is the disciples right now are so worried about status and approval from Jesus, because they want to know who's the greatest in the kingdom. And that will turn us to verse 2. And then Jesus called a little child to him and sat in the midst of them. 3. And he said, assure you, unless you are converted and become as a little child, you will by no means enter in the kingdom of heaven. Some text says, unless you turn. That's what some text say, unless you turn and become as a little child. Turn does not mean apologize. That's not what they're saying. Like, don't just, oh, sorry, God, and then keep sinning. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, I understand what I'm doing, and I must turn away from sin. I'm stuck in lust. I must turn from lust. I'm stuck in gluttony. I must turn from that. I'm stuck in approval. I must turn to that. I'm stuck in anger. I'm stuck in, what are you stuck in? Addiction, whatever. Turn away from it. Transform your mind from it. That's what he's saying. He's saying, unless you turn, then, because you can say sorry and still sin. Like, that's still a thing. Like, you can say, like, oh, I'm sorry, and still sin. You can still do that. So he's saying turn from it. And then also says become as a little child. Become means to change. So turn your ways and become a child, because it says in the Bible that train a child as the way as they should go. So think of a child that is, because like if I think of like my nieces, because my nephew is old enough, but like my nieces, like they're not looking for status. They don't care about a like on Facebook. They don't care about this, but those are the things that they're not looking for. So we must change. That's what we're getting at here. And so therefore, if you don't change, if you don't turn, are you going to miss the opportunity to enter into the kingdom? Because God will say, I never knew you. I might be listening to this music, gospel music, might go to church, might be reading my Bible, listening to this podcast, going to that conference, but did you turn? Did you change? So when we enter Judgment Day, God might be like, hey, I never knew you, because we didn't turn, we didn't change from our wicked ways, because we still stuck in sin. And that's going to get us to this heavy text here. It says, therefore, whoever humbles himself as a little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. So that's what he's saying. Like, be humble. Humble yourself. Change yourself. But whoever causes one of these little ones, believers in me, to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and were drowned in the depths of the sea. So God is telling us it is better for you to drown with a millstone tied around your neck than causing one of his little children to sin. So basically, do not be the reason why another believer sins. Don't let other believers get caught up in sin. We must turn them. We must humble them and let them know, like, hey, I'm your brother. Like, healing happens person to person. So he's saying, don't let Isaac be the reason that another believer gets caught up in sin. Don't ever be the reason a believer gets caught up in sin, is what he's telling us here. And he said, woe to the world because of offense, for offense must come, but woe to the man by whom the offense comes. Woe is a bad thing. You don't want to be on the backside of a woe from God. If your hand causes you to sin, if your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. It is better for you to enter into life lame or maimed rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be casted into the everlasting fire. And if your eyes cause you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. It is better for you to enter into the life with 1 eye rather than having 2 eyes to be casting into hell. So God is not saying to harm yourself. God is not asking for body mutilation, but heart. He's saying hand or foot. If I'm going places that I shouldn't be going, God is saying cut it off. Cut it off in your heart. Don't go to that place. If I'm handling things, money, drugs, like caught up in lust, like he's saying cut your hand off. It is better for you to come into the kingdom lame than with both hands that caused you to sin. And he's saying, in your eyes causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom with 1 eye than 2 that causes you to sin. So therefore, like, what are we watching? What are we seeing? Like, what movies are we watching? What are we reading? What are we scrolling on? Because we have TikTok thumbs in. What are we watching? Is it causing us to fall into sin? Is it going back? Like, are we turning away from sin? Are we just letting our eyes cause us to sin? And it's not in here, but not only does it take your eyes, but also your ears. What are we listening to? What music are we listening to that causes us to sin? because it gets in the brain. As a man thinketh, a man does. Wow. See, hearing leads to thoughts, thoughts lead to action, actions lead to habits, habits lead to lifestyle. If you want to turn and follow Christ, because that's what a disciple is a studier of Christ. That's what a disciple does. We must turn. Take heed that you do not desire one of these little ones, for I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. So God is telling us from 18 to 10 that we must cut it off. Don't play around with sin. Cut it off. And be like the child. Be humbled like the child. Because we must humble ourselves and not worry about the status of our individual selves. Because we will get to judgment day and he will say, I never knew you. So what do we have to figure out what is causing us to sin, and we just need to cut it off, making sure that we are not the reason that another believer is caught up in sin. Is it the way that we talk? Is it the music we're listening to? Is it what we're seeing? Is it where we're going, living a party life? We got to figure that out. And we must keep our brothers and sisters accountable, because God says to go make disciples and fill the kingdom. And don't let sin ruin your life. So we must become/change, and we must repent, not apologize, but turn, change our lives. And if there's sin in our life, we must cut it off, because there's so much greatness inside of you. God has called you to this earth. But if we play around with sin, and then all of a sudden it's too late. So come judgment day, don't let it be, I never knew you. Build the kingdom, cut off sin, turn your life, and don't worry about who's the greatest in the kingdom. Because obviously God is, but at this time they're worried about who's the greatest. Who's going to be the greatest? They're so worried about status. So he says, be humble like this child, and don't let sin control your life. If there's an area in your life that is causing you to sin, cut it off. So that's all I have for you from 18 to 10. And thank you guys so much for listening. And this is going to be a continued series that we do here on the channel. So Matthew 18, 1 through 10. Cut off sin. Don't play with it. It's not a pet. It will ruin your life. And this is a measure of true greatness.